Hi everyone. Hi Vineet. I guess our third speaker Somo is just stuck in his previous call. While we'll wait, we have a few guests already online, so we can start rolling, and Somo will join in, and we'll pick it up with him when he joins in. So everyone, hi, good morning to users and listeners joining in from North America, and good evening to people joining in from other geographies. And here we have Somo as well. Hi, Somo.
Hi, Anurag.
Great, Somo. So we were just about to roll off. It's a great timing. So guys, everyone, welcome again, and welcome. This is the third episode of the Iksula podcasts. In this one, we're gonna talk a CTO's perspective. We're gonna talk about how to scale e-commerce platforms without sacrificing performance or incurring extremely heavy, unsustainable financial and human resources costs around that. Uh, Today, my guests include Somo Sharma. Somo is a veteran in the tech and e-commerce tech industry with about 20 years experience. He's currently the CTO and co-founder at Zeprock. Zeprock is a revolutionary e-commerce platform for SME businesses operating primarily in the European geography and looking to expand. My second guest is Vineet. Vineet is the VP of Technology Services at Iksula and comes again with about 20 years of experience in the tech and e-commerce industry. So I think we have a very good guest panel here to talk about their experiences and how they have scaled e-commerce platforms, what are the challenges they've faced from a CTO's perspective, and what are the strategies they adopt. So I'll quickly let Somo and Vineet spend about a minute talking about their experience, what they do. Somo, over to you first.
Yeah, thank,
What is that you do, and what's your experience with e-commerce?
yeah. Thanks, Anurag. And I think hi to all the guests who have attended this podcast. In the last 15 years, we have all seen e-commerce have grown at a very significant pace, and adoption of e-commerce tech has happened in all aspects, be
Mm-hmm.
it online marketing, supply chain, customer support, personalization, etc. And the list keeps on growing. For me, it has been a very great experience to be part of many digital e-commerce and omni-channel implementation of major retailers across North America, MENA, Europe, India, and Southeast Asia. And this includes building the systems for scale. And particularly when we come back to e-commerce tech, what has happened is that not only in India but across all the geographies, the innovations in B2C in the past decade have surpassed what is there in the B2B. So B2B has lagged behind. But the next decade, we will see a lot of offline B2B transaction shifting towards the online, like it happened in B2C
Mm-hmm.
around a decade back. And coming back to the main e-commerce tech, that all the core systems and solutions for B2B are already available. But it also involve a new edge approach to improve the old edge processes that still exist. And this will further trigger the richness of e-commerce tech.
Mm-hmm.
And the upcoming journey excites me.
Got it. Thanks, Somo. Vineet, your view. I mean, what has changed? What are the new kind of challenges coming up? Where do you see yourself?
Yeah. So, firstly, thanks, Anurag, and good morning, good evening to all the participants over here. Thanks for taking out time midweek, right? Yes, Anurag. So, at the outset, right, I've had the experience of working with the different off-the-shelf commerce platforms like SAP Hybris, Magento back then, Adobe Commerce Cloud today, Salesforce, HCL, and also some of the DIY platforms like Shopify, BigCommerce, right? Obviously, each of them catering to different use cases. In my view, right, I think, when I started in the commerce domain, right, so back in 2015, 16, right, Largely, what I have been observing is, the choice of the platform was largely influenced by the ecosystem in which, a specific business operates. For instance, let's say, if a business is leveraging an ERP from SAP, or they had an HANA implementation, right? The natural choice would be to side with SAP Hybris. I'm just making it a little more broader and generic. Likewise, for industries very customer centric, marketing driven, or retail, for instance, right? They would want to side with platforms like Shopify if it's a small SME, or probably Salesforce, to leverage, the ecosystem, right? That was largely the thought process. Of course, there were other influencers like the choice of geo, the support from the service providers, the TCO, and likes of that. With that said, right, one transitional change I've seen in the last 4 5 years at least has been that the choice of platform is getting we have reached a stage where the choice is getting very agnostic in terms of the platform a particular customer decides to choose, right? Your ERP could be SAP, your content could be, it could be, a React based storefront, it could be, Magento backend. So basically people are moving towards away from a monolithic architecture, more to a decoupled kind of a construct. So that's been my view. And largely, I think the choice of platforms are also dictated by the kind of TCO, the kind of ROI businesses can meet, right? Because just one more point to add over here is the initial, I think the early objective for people to get into the e-commerce channel, right, or business houses to get into channel was primarily from having an extended channel of reach to customer. But today businesses are talking about it's quite a lucrative channel. It's, I think, the largest it's the most dividend rewarding channel as well. So people are measuring in terms of ROIs and platform choices. So I think that's how the industry is being dictated as of today.
Got it. Got it. Now, very interesting perspective from both of you. Very different vantage points. But what we are seeing is, and that has been my view as well. The closer I see the industry, is that right now the choices of platform have become a lot more sophisticated as versus what it was, let's say, 10 years ago. And they are a multitude of factors and elements that get evaluated while making a choice. Because let's agree, we all know that once a company chooses and their e-commerce platform, they're going to have to stick with it for at least 7 years, maybe 5 to 7 years. That's the minimum. And given that time scale, these choices become very critical. So let's come to what or today's topic and look at scale. I mean, we talk about e-commerce platforms at a massive scale, hundreds of millions of users or hundreds of millions of products and so on. But Somo, this question would be to you first. As a CTO, what are some of the key challenges, or what is the framework that you look at when somebody says, I want my platform to scale? What would be the framework that you would use to start with?
Okay. So I think this is the challenge which every CTO in their role and any e-commerce or any retailer face. And like for any CEO to solving the issue of scalability, simply throwing hardware at the problem will not solve it. So it's
Mhm.
a delicate dance across multiple dimensions, still ensuring the seamless. Oh, pardon?
No, I think somebody else is also in the speaker. They're
Yeah.
saying.
So we have to ensure that the seamless growth happens without compromising on the e-commerce performance or the user experience. Okay. And I will going to list down some of the 4 or 5 pointers, some of the major challenging areas a CTO always face. Number one is that the first is the peak load, whether it is Diwali or Black Friday. you know there are a lot of work needs to be done prior to it. This would mean planning for millions of visitors and thousands of orders per minute. Your application needs to handle that scale. So peak load during your festive or campaign is the one primary point. The second, I would say, is the functional complexity of the website. A bakery site is far more simpler than a two-sided marketplace with millions of sellers and buyers. So that changes the complete dynamics. Third is that which most of the e-commerce team will agree is the size and the complexity of the product catalog. With millions of products and multiple product configurations, during the course of time, catalog can become extremely complex.
Mm-hmm.
What is that for any new age e-commerce application, it cannot do away with integrations. Integrations can be with third party or with their internal systems like ERP, OMS, PIMS, and all those things. Sometimes it can cause the scalability challenges. And the fifth most point, which is always very critical to a CTO mind, is the security. So it's the never-ending security measures covering the application, the cloud infra, and most importantly, the integration endpoints, so that it safeguard your customer and payments information.
Got it. Got
These
it.
are broadly 4 5 major areas which are always on a CTO mind.
Great. I could agree more with these points. We need any specific examples you want to share from experience. Let's pick up each point one by one. So if we were to look at peak user load and concurrent traffic, what kind of examples have you seen? And some top of the mind examples?
Sure, Anurag. I think, yeah, picking from what Somu just suggested, right? So obviously, I think the underlying problem for, e-commerce stack to support that kind of a traffic is going to be, how do you cater to peak load, right? And, while, I'll try to quote a few examples from what I know of. So I'm sure all of us are aware of Amazon. We've been there, we have shopped there. So a very interesting stat pulling out of Amazon is, on a given day, right? From what I know, Amazon, this is quoting back to 2022, right? Would ship up approximately about 1.6 million packages per day, right? But on a Amazon Prime Day, I'm sure all of us are aware of what Amazon Prime Day is, right? So this event happens like in India, we do it two times now, right? So Amazon reported about 300 million items were shipped, worldwide when the Prime Day, during the course of the Prime Day. In India alone, the traffic was, the number of orders peaked to about 22,000 orders per minute. This I'm talking at the peak, right? So which kind of translates to, if my numbers are right, it translates to about 300 to 350 odd orders per second. So this
Wow.
is an example. Picking from another marketplace, a very predominant we use marketplace is Flipkart, which is, back in Walmart as we know it, right? So they have a very similar program, which is your $1 billion days, right? So during the recent billion day, right, which is in back in 2023, they had a footfall of almost about 85 million visitors on their Indian portal on day one of the billion day. So I think this is a week-long event. So this is, I'm just talking about day one, right?
That's more than the population of the UK.
That's more than the population of a lot of countries, put together, in the Shenzhen region, in the EU region, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think again, they recorded a sales of 8 million orders, right, in the first day itself, right? So,
Mhm.
so again, using these two examples, right? So these are good relevant examples as to you're talking about peak user traffic. Let's ship geo as well, right? I'm sure all of us know Alibaba even, right? So
Mhm.
Alibaba back in 2009 started your Singles Day, or I think they call it Alibaba 11, right? So they have a very
About
similar
11. Yes, yes. Yeah.
they have a very similar shopping festival.
Hmm.
So a very interesting stat that I was reading was, in 2009 when they started, they had about 200 odd vendors onboarded on the platform, trying to do so basically it's a marketplace again, right? So you barter. So you had about 200 vendors on the platform. Fast forward back to 2022, 2023, they operate with almost about 300,000 merchants trying to make a sale and transaction on Alibaba platform.
Hmm.
And again, I think they clocked the revenue of almost about 80 billion converted to USD right back in 2022. So again, all this is leveraging the same platform. Obviously the platform has evolved, right? But what I'm trying to say is this kind of traffic, right? If you imagine the offline channel on a certain road, you have malls. Now this has been moved to an online space, right? So the quantum of visitors, so the amount of pressure that e-commerce site has to handle, it's no, it's your infra, it's your content, it's your third party applications all working in tandem together, right?
All the points that Somo mentioned, I
All
think
the points, yeah, just extending from there, right? So also it was very candidly quoted that I don't want to make it a geopolitical issue, but it was very candidly quoted that the Alibaba Singles Day, right, kind of dwarfs the Cyber Mondays and the Black Fridays both put
it
together.
does. It does.
It
It does.
does.
I mean, actually an accepted fact that the Chinese market per se, the online market penetration and the sheer size of the buying population, that has made it the largest e-commerce market a few years ago. I mean, it is a function of the way the economy has grown, and the
Right.
internet economy has grown as well.
Correct.
So let me throw this to Somo. Somo, if you have been in this situation, I'm sure multiple times in the past. How do you handle it? What do you start doing, let's say a year in advance? What do you do 3 months, 6 months in advance? And what do you do a day in advance in setting this out?
Okay, it it always obviously depends on your short term and the long term goals.
Hmm.
Obviously, based on obviously the budget and obviously allocated is always limited, and
Hmm.
more dependent on where the op strategy should align, kind of a thing.
Hmm.
So obviously, in the short term, every organization obviously is ready to use a solution which is already available,
Hmm.
okay, with no string attached. Okay, it's the primary is going to be that the resources or the agency which is going to implement it partly, and they have an in-house team, whichever, that there are a lot of agencies in the market, and also the tech stack which is behind such solution. A lot of engineers are available in the market
Hmm.
and available on a little affordable rates, kind of a thing. Then once it's up, obviously then comes obviously adding in more functionalities, and the whichever application ready made, and a lot of customizations that is going to, there will come a time when that they will start blaming that the solution is not great. Okay, so obviously investment is required
Hmm.
gradually, because during the course of time, obviously they have to break down the monolithic architecture and move
Hmm.
it very slowly to a new age architecture, and that's how all the e-commerce company have achieved. Typically, in the case of, like, let's say example, in 2008, look at the website of Flipkart. It's like, if anyone has a photo, you will remember. And I can take a case studies of companies like Nika and Pepperfry. Okay,
Hmm.
they are very, very amongst the huge, unique niche marketplace in India, and they started their tech platform with open source, readily available solutions,
Hmm.
and building a lot of other services during the course of time, and applications, and still that the original application they use is still part of what in their existing tech, but it does only one function. Earlier it used to do all the functions.
Oh, okay.
So because since the like I just said that since the kind of investment and budget is always limited, okay, we should both keep both the short term and long term. Even if we adopt a readily available solution,
Hmm.
we never forget that we should keep on improving and adding more features so that it's scalable.
Got it. So, see, I again, this is a debate I hear a lot from customers around cloud native architectures, microservices architectures. I personally have built out solutions using that, and I have seen certain pros and certain cons about that. So, what is the trend that you see movement toward microservices, cloud native architectures, and what is the impact on cost of that?
Okay, regarding the obviously, if everyone has a budget, if you implement a cloud native kind of a thing, obviously it automates a lot of things, but there is a certain overhead
Okay.
to maintain it. So obviously, based on the size of the org,
Hmm.
and the kind of the traffic and the system where it is integrated in, okay, with multiple endpoints and all those things. So there always be a two approach. One to use readily available and build
Hmm.
over it slowly over a time,
Hmm.
and if an org has obviously willing to invest from day one, okay,
Hmm.
that they need a platform on microservice architecture from day one, of course they can offer it.
Got it.
But in both the case, there's always a learning curve which
Yeah.
is involved.
Yeah, and this is again something I also tell our customers and the people I meet is that microservices is great, but it's expensive. It requires fairly high degree of expertise. It requires a long-term commitment to it, and it will require a higher expenditure on tech, the cloud services, and building out the architecture and the human resource element as well, because it's more advanced. So there has to be a strong business case of how to why it is needed and how the ROI will come about. I think that is what our takeaway from this conversation could be.
Yes, correct.
Got it. So let's move to the next one. Let's look at when we are talking on the functional complexity. Now, this is where again I'll probably highlight a couple of points. People or when customers challenge us that why is it so complex? I just want a shopping cart and I want a catalog and I want checkout and I want payments. I mean, that's essentially the nutshell of e-commerce in a nutshell. Where does the complexity arrive in or emerge from? And Vineet, I think this is where I'll throw this question to you. Where does that functional complexity emerge from?
Sure, Anurag. I think this question is also very relevant, to what I do with Iksula and what my digital journey has been, because over here we are primarily working with diverse array of customers, right? And
Yeah.
it's a very relevant question because what we believe, and there is no one size that fits all, right? So
Mm.
because every business is different, every requirement is different. At the outset, it appears like you create a homepage, landing pages, run marketing campaigns, have a great checkout experience, right? The transaction, boom, it's done.
Yeah.
Uh, Unfortunately, that's not how it works. Talking about, different functional use cases, right? I think I like to quote a few, again, some use cases, right, that could, add some merit to this answer. So let's talk about personalization, right? I'm sure we have a lot of retail clothing marketplaces across the globe. I'll just take on with Mintra as an example in the context of India, right? So huge
Mm.
marketplace, multiple brands listed on it, right? And trying to cater to a diverse set of spectrum of audience as well, right?
Mm.
Young children, adults, men, women.
Yep.
You know
Yep.
extra size, also trying to cater to home category, all the allied categories, right? So these kind of so basically you hop onto the site, right, to buy, let's say you're trying to buy a shirt, right? Or let me take a better example. Let's say you decide to buy sneakers, right? So what do you pair that with? You have to pair it with a set of socks, right? Or you buy a set of trousers. You have to pair it, with a shirt, for instance,
Mm.
right? So I'm sure we all know what is cross-selling and the personalization and all of that. Right now, all this level of personalization actually involves a lot of complex algorithms, right? You need to also read into the customer patterns. Let's say if I'm trying to, I don't want to reveal my size, my trouser sizes over here. Let's say I'm buying a certain size on Mintra, right? The next time I'm actually glued to the site, right? It automatically only prompts me, this is my waist size, this is my hip size. So that kind of this only comes with real time analysis. You obviously need to also be tracking the behavior of the customer, right? So managing such kind of data flow, ensuring the accuracy of recommendations, and avoiding algorithmic errors, right? So this is on the personalization, right? To quote you another example, let's say I'm sure all of you know about IKEA, right? Or I can't think
Mhm.
of another equivalent brand over here. Let's say Urban Ladder in India, or IKEA for that matter, right? So there could be a use case where your commerce site has to be designed in a way
Mm.
that you need an interactive product configurator,
Mhm.
right? Wherein, for example, for the furniture or any electronic components that need to be assembled together, this could involve, 3D rendering, real-time, updates, doing some compatibility checks. So that is a very different use case, right? There could be use cases where marketplaces or commerce sites where multiple vendors kind of interact to deliver a certain service to the customer, right? Again, I'm sticking on to the Indian context. A lot of us know about Urban Clap, right? So
Mm.
multiple vendors. Let's say you need some home service, right? It could be redoing your house, which could involve a paint job. It could involve gardening. It could involve furniture. So basically, it is multiple vendors trying to address to a certain specific requirement, right? So that is another use case. On top of my mind, I can think of something which is a buzzword back in India. And again, I hear that in Southeast Asia, a lot is spoken about. This is hyper local, right? Let's
Mm.
say groceries, you need a donut, right? 6 minutes, dot, it's delivered to you. Now you need a very different e-commerce. This is a very different e-commerce case, right? Because while the user journey is still the same, right? You have a landing page, you check a
Hey.
product, you do the transaction, and you track the shipment, right? But I think the technology over here and even the operating model, right? The SOPs
Mm.
that drive this kind of a business is different. So largely, I think again, in a nutshell, there is no one size that fits all, is what I would say. A lot of these functionalities, use cases would kind of also narrow down on the commerce platform, number one, and also how do you want to tweak or wire the commerce platform across the ecosystem, right? Your ERP, your CRM, your payment, your 3PL, all of that. So that's
So, Soma, how do you solve for this? I mean, as wearing your CTO hat, how do you take what is the approach you take? What are the strategies you build to solve for this functional complexity?
So obviously, during the course of time, as more features and functionalities piled up, it put a lot of pressure on the front end and also on the back end, it becomes a little unwieldy. So
Hmm.
like we can obviously always follow this six golden rules. Okay, three from front end and three from the back end. So on the front end side, you must have seen that whenever a new changes happen, somewhere it gets broken down and all those kind of things. And when the e-commerce system is very, very large, you need to follow a process and keep the discipline. So we achieve it by using the modular UI components. There's always a global UI components which is always reusable, and whichever team is implementing it has to follow it very stringently.
Hmm.
Like, let's say the common UI elements across is the menu, buttons, mouse over, lot of things, which is always obviously covered in the global list. So what happens is that it reduces a lot of code duplicity and also simplify the maintenance.
Hmm.
And the most important aspects is that when anything new is being introduced, you are ensured that nothing gets broken down
Hmm.
on other pieces. The second is that the single page application is the obviously has been adopted by a lot of e-commerce company in India. There are a lot of initially Pepperfry and Nika and a lot of others. Initially, their front end application was a monolithic, deeply coupled with the back end, but
Hmm.
now they have moved it into a simple page application where obviously their single page applications are very lightweight, and obviously it reduces a lot of server requests, and it also results in a very smooth user experience.
Hmm.
And the third most important point for the front end, that if we separate the presentation layer from the business logic, so you have two applications to manage, but when one is broken it doesn't impact the other. And so that's why we call it in the industry term as an API driven architecture. Okay, and it's a must if you want to scale it. And the benefits is that it gives you the ability to scale individual components. So these are the very three important points we have to ensure that we
Hmm.
follow this on the front end part. On the back end part, obviously, so these are the three golden rules. Number one is always, and if an e-commerce system is very large and complex, it needs to integrate with a lot of other systems. So the API gateways comes into the picture.
Hmm.
It should be secure, and it
Hmm.
ensure that it follows the industry norm so that it's easy to integrate with any external systems,
Hmm.
and full proof the platform. Second most important thing is that the event based driven architecture. So
Hmm.
it's up to the team and the org which can use it. So apart from event driven architecture, they can also consider log driven architecture. But the purpose behind is that your application should be able to react to user actions and
Hmm.
system and in real time, ensuring the responsiveness and the scalability. And the third most important thing, which is the very crucial for any engineering team, is the automated testing. We have all heard CI and CD pipeline, but the continuous integration and continuous their delivery automation testing should be part of the pipeline to automate the testing and the deployment.
Hmm.
So these are the six key points which if any team follow this, so obviously it should help that whenever new functions has been added and the system becomes complex, but still they will be able to manage it.
Got it. Got it. Okay.
So,
So
just one little point to
sure.
add to what so basically, I think yeah, the storefront and the backend to what Somu covered, right? I think when solving function complexity, right, one dimension to look at things would be if you're trying to make it device agnostic, number one,
Hmm.
or doing if you're trying to solve a problem which is let's say there are companies that operate only on a mobile app, right?
Hmm.
We have a lot of let's say car aggregators, cab
Hmm.
back in India over here. And so basically, one consideration when designing a solution from a very functional aspect should also be, this is my view, should also be at a device level, right? If you're trying to do it a mobile friendly, if to operate on multi devices, or if it's going to be only mobile or device agnostic for that matter. So just a
Got
little bit there.
Absolutely. I think that device angle also becomes very critical, especially when and everybody now is trying to go mobile first. But still, I don't think people are going to ditch the desktops as of now. But yes, I think you look at Ubers of the world, or Ubers, or Swiggy's, or DoorDash. I think a lot of them have become mobile first purely because of tracking and the mobility features and how the user behavior also has evolved
That's the
around.
use case, basically. You're right.
Yeah. Okay. And if we pick up point number three, so we go down to the complexity and the size of the product catalog. And this is where I personally come across a lot of customer requirements on what they need. So we talk about Amazon, which probably has 350 million e-commerce listings, or you have an Etsy, which has about 90 million plus listings, or you have a Rock Auto, which has 12 plus million auto parts listing. And the challenge I have seen is either you have a very large number of categories with each of them having their own set of attributes and the way you need to tag the products to enable search, or you will have the sheer number of the product catalog, the kind of product becomes extremely complex that it has to have a very large number of attributes, or you need to have a lot of interactive, a 3D or an AR or a VR kind of environment for the product to be visible. I mean, we spoke about furniture. I remember a use case I had with a real estate company who were looking to integrate the VR component also of the catalog into into the mobile app and especially the mobile app, so that you could look at a photograph and see how the building will look like. So those are the kind of examples we see on the complexity of the product catalog. Again, Soma, how do we solve for these? I mean, how do you typically go and solve for these problems?
Okay, so Nurag, I think let me answer it from the technical point. Okay.
Mm,
Okay, so there are two, in technical terms, for maintaining the complexity of large catalog. So there are two aspects, or you will say there are two systems to handle it. Okay, the first is your PIM, or whichever custom where you keep all your catalog. Or by
mm,
PIM, it stands for Product Information System.
mm,
So all the activity where you do regarding the rule-based logic of a catalog, or the content initiation, or till the content generation, the
mm,
workflows, the approvals, and final publishing. So it happens in your PIM. Or
mm,
if you don't have a PIM, there must be a system which you will be doing it, or some retailers do it on over on Excel also. Okay. So there is one thing. The first part handle all this one. The second is your catalog database. It can be a part of your application, it can be a standalone, whichever. But the catalog database, which is used majorly by your front end applications
mm,
for fast query to power the search, category pages, facets, filter, etc. So these are the two systems, and there are some obviously high-level pointers as a thumb rule, where while implementing such some pointers which we will ensure. The first is that how your data is stored, because such data is stored for very fast retrieval. So obviously we choose a database solution which
mm,
is optimized for storing large product data sets,
mm,
like you have object storage, or you have columnar databases types. And second most is that since this database is going to power search and facets, which is very very important, so it is worthwhile that to implement a robust search algorithm and filters,
mhm.
so that users can navigate and find the product easily. And all this by ensuring that there is a very less load on the search servers. Third is that it's always good to invest in a content management system,
Mhm.
or a PIM kind of a solution which are specialized to manage your product information metadata, and
Mm.
ensuring that all the data consistency comes from a single source.
Got it. Got it. I think that's very insightful for me. I hadn't thought about from this perspective. So that thank you so much for that. And we are about 40 minutes into our conversation, so probably we have another 10 minutes. So let's quickly jump to the last part, which we spoke about complex enterprise integrations. And this is something that we always talk about in terms of number of systems we need to integrate with. It could be your order management system, it would be your inventory management system. We've already spoken about systems like your external product catalog. We're talking about loyalty systems. So how does that shape up? I mean, Vineet, you want to just take a minute and give us a couple of examples that you have seen?
Sure, Anurag. I think some of the obvious cases over here, like for instance, on the top of my mind would be, Target, right? The retailer Target.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure all of you know this. So basically, what how Target operates is they integrate their in-house inventory, right? They have a in-house inventory management system, which is running across various physical stores, their warehouses, and that would also enable a lot of online pickups and deliveries. So basically it's an omni channel ecosystem. Now this coupled with their loyalty program, their um, uh, their coupons and likes
Mm-hmm.
of things, right? So that is one use case. Likewise, you have Nike, right? The footwear brand Nike, right? So they operate in a way where they connect, they are different. So Nike, they have, they have manufacturing facilities across different, regions, right? So the way they would operate is they would connect different manufacturing partners and suppliers globally, right? To enable dynamic inventory management. Now, and also the demand fulfillment, right? Now, this is done by use of their inventory systems, their ERPs, all glued with the e-commerce platform, right? That they have. Another example, again, relevant to the US geography that I can think of is DoorDash, right? For your food deliveries, right? So the way they operate is they integrate restaurant POS systems, the driver tracking apps to ensure there is efficient. Firstly, there is efficient order routing. Right, there could be multiple ways to navigate to deliver the order. So that is how they optimize and also order delivery, right, on their POS systems. So I think these are some of the examples on top of my mind. Wherein such complex functional cases are solved, keeping commerce as your enabler, and on top of it you have different third party systems, right? Your IMS systems, your PIM systems that Somu quoted about. So
Got it. And Soma, how do you design for this? I mean, this is the scale, the challenges on this will be massive. When you could be making thousands of API calls per second. So how do you design for this, and how do you manage the cost around that?
So obviously, that any e-commerce, the major e-commerce system, be it like Mintra, Nykaa, Amazon, or Flipkart, or whichever of any geographical location, you will
Mm,
see that for any merchant, they can use the platform, the backend of the Amazon to fulfill the orders, or they
mm,
can use any third-party applications where it is integrated with, where from one place you can sync inventory, roll out offers, everything. So that's
mm,
the power of the seamless integration that that in a major e-commerce system provides. And
mm,
also there are the three basic principles to it. Okay, and if someone aspires to build a marketplace or something needs to have a very seamless integration, the first point is the APIs. They have to ensure that they utilize the industry standard APIs to connect with the external systems securely and efficiently, and
mm,
ensure that the new age protocols are adopted so that it ensuring compatibility with any third party systems. Okay. The second is that the iPaaS, which is integration platform as a service, it's simplify and manage integrations with a variety of platform. In case if the number of integrations or the endpoints are used, there are a lot of iPaaS solutions available in the market.
mm,
Okay, so either you can build your own or you can use these services, and it allows you to customize a lot.
mm,
The third point, which is always very critical, is the data security. Because your API endpoints are exposed to a lot of functions, I know that tokens will be used, authentication, and all those things. But so we need to have a robust data security measures to protect the customer information. And for whichever team which is implementing this, that this should be the highest priority.
Got it. Got it. So I think we're at the pretty much end of our conversation today. So any final thoughts, Soma? I mean, scale is always the challenge, and it will continue to be a big challenge and an ask from e-commerce platforms. So any parting words, maybe two or three key advice that you would want to share with us?
Yeah, I think the last 16, 17 years well spent only on e-commerce is worth it. We came from an age where customers were reluctant that how do I buy a shirt or a shoes, whether it will fit or not.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And looking back, obviously we have come a lot of to an age where obviously we buy our onions and potatoes online. Kind of a
Absolutely,
thing.
absolutely. I'm one of
And
them.
so of course there is a lot of factor which has contributed it, the
Mm.
marketing, the functional, and most importantly the need, a better way to purchase than the existing. Okay, so a lot of ideas, and most importantly the innovation in e-commerce tech has enabled it, which is the. And now we have seen that all the categories of e-commerce and the industry has grown and is still growing. Okay, like like 10 years back we never thought of buying insurance online, kind of a
Mhm.
thing. So obviously from not only from the normal goods or consumable, it's moving a lot of things.
Mm.
Nowadays booking an airline ticket, everyone thinks online. Compare it to a, so obviously e-commerce to it will cover all the aspects, obviously.
Mm.
uh, Remaining a few which we agree that will be a little harsh because it's a little niche. But the way it has innovated in a B2C, okay, somehow in the background it's starting to innovate the B2B, which is left behind the B2C. And
Mm.
we see a lot of excitement on that side.
Got it. Somo, thank you for your thank you so much for these insights. We need any final words and suggestions or thoughts?
Sure. I think, largely, Somu covered it all, but, talking about, let's talk about a greenfield, implementation or consideration, right, in the commerce space. So commerce, I think, is just one element of it, right? Because I think all of us know what is digitalization today. To have a better outreach to the clients, and e-commerce is just one step towards that direction, right? So, in my view, I think having, considering an e-commerce implementation or having a digital, plan without a roadmap is, a certain recipe for disaster. So my view is, I think it's very important to prioritize a certain roadmap for any industry, any business, considering, the digital journey. There could be, just to keep it simple, there could be, short-term goals, there could be long-term goals, and then there could be, futuristic considerations, right? So if your industry is trying to do a boom, if you have an M&A lined up, so there could be different considerations from those factors. So short-term goals could be, what is really urgent for the business on a day-to-day basis that could, ease up your, operational hazards, as we call it in our terms, right? And long-term could be more strategic views, right? Should I really invest on a certain platform? Is that platform actually going to be solving a certain problem statement relevant to me? Is it just a platform? Do Another important consideration could be, factoring the complete TCO, right? Because it's not just the implementation. What
Mm.
is the operational cost around it? What are the licensing cost around it? What is the infra consideration? How mature is my, supply chain? So there could be a lot of fine factors to be put in place right before we delve in the digitalization space. Of course, this is a, I think, as I initially mentioned, right, the earlier adapters, for them this was more like a channel, but today it's, it's like a must have offering for most of the brands that we speak to
Mhm.
today, and who envision getting over here. So that's the final remark, Anurag. Thanks.
Thank you, Vineet. So here's a couple of thoughts from me, whatever I've picked up from my conversation with you. I think my view is that from a tech perspective, the tech is evolving, but also we have reached, the industry has reached a certain scale. In fact, it's reached a massive scale. So any changes to the tech will be more thought through, and they will be taken, as you guys said, with a long-term perspective in mind. Second, the point what Somo brought up, while we will see a lot of innovation, continued innovation on the B2C side, I think the CTOs of B2B organizations and B2B commerce is growing much faster. I mean, I also do talk to a lot of CTOs and e-commerce heads for B2B commerce in India and globally as well. And the view I am seeing is they are trying different things. They are trying some very interesting things. And they would also be they are also thinking of many of the points we discussed when it comes to scaling. So I think this year is going to be very interesting, 2024, when we talk about scaling. We will continue to see some very interesting developments happening from the tech industry, both in terms of how they scale for the peak number of users versus how they scale for complexity, and the big AI push, how that will impact e-commerce and the scalability part, that remains to be seen. So we'll keep following, and we'll come back again. Let me thank everyone on the show. Guys, thank you so much for attending the show. Hope this was useful to you, and we'll be back in 2 weeks with a new episode. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Bye.
Okay, bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.